years in China, Tibetan Buddhism is an important part of Chinese Buddhism. To understand Xizang, these facts about Tibetan Buddhism are a must. Join me for a city walk through the landmarks of Lhasa. Our trip started at Bakra Street, the heart of Lhasa.
It comprises of a network of 35 streets and alleys with over 4,000 shops.
This is the former residence of the Qing government minister to Xizang on the Bakra Street. 138 ministers were stationed there over the ensuing 200 years.
Tibetan Buddhism, also known as the Tibetan-speaking Buddhism, is one of the three major language systems of Chinese Buddhism. The other two are Mandarin-speaking Buddhism and Pali-speaking Buddhism. Based on the latest data in November 2023, Xizang has over 1,700 sites for Tibetan Buddhist activities, with about 46,000 monks and nuns. In the middle of the 7th century, Buddhism was introduced to Xizang from both South Asia and Chinese mainland.
Songtsen Gampo was the founder of the Tibetan Tubo Kingdom. This is the birthplace of Songtsen Gampo in Meizhugongka County of Lhasa. Songtsen Gampo's memorial hall was set up here to tell his story and the old days of Tubo Kingdom. Although he lived for only 34 years, Songtsen Gampo unified the Tibetan plateau and relocated his kingdom's capital to modern-day Lhasa.
He married Nepali Princess Brigudi and Princess Wenchen of the Tang dynasty. Both princesses practiced Buddhism. The Han Buddhism brought by Princess Wenchen and the Indian Buddhism brought by Princess Brigudi, together with some local religions of Tubo, gradually formed the Tibetan Buddhism.
The building behind me is the Potala Palace and the world's highest ancient palace and a landmark in China's Xizang Autonomous Region. The Potala Palace was built under the direction of Songtsen Gampo in the 7th century. It's recorded that Songtsen Gampo built this palace to marry Princess Wencheng. However, the Potala Palace built by Songtsen Gampo had already been turned into ruins, and the current Potala Palace was rebuilt by the 5th Dalai Lama in the 17th century. And since then, the Potala Palace is the winter residence of the Dalai Lamas. If you want to ask me what the summer residence of the Dalai Lamas is, do follow me to continue our trip and you will find the answer. This is the famous Zhoukang Temple in Lhasa, which has a history of over 1,300 years.
It was built under the direction of Princess Brigudi, with the strong support of Princess Wencheng. The statue of Sakai Muni, aged 12, brought by Princess Wencheng from Chang'an, is enshrined here.
The Tang Tubo Alliance monument in front of the Zhoukang Temple was built in 823. The inscription on the monument says the Tubo and the Tang dynasty became one family and started a new journey.
It reflects the ethnic unity between the Han and Tibetan peoples over the past 1,200 years. Here I met Laba, a monk and the executive deputy director of Zhoukang Temple Management Committee.
大昭寺文物世界文化遗产，所有的那个文物全部都有数据库，人也多，信徒也好，旅客也好，保护当中也有矛盾。现在大昭寺2万多平米里头保护的特别好，佛像、唐卡、佛塔这些有6000多年代材质、重量、高度全部都有记载。
我们期待数据库的最后的上线，早日跟所有人的见面。
What is the mysterious reincarnation of the living Buddhas in Tibetan Buddhism? What are the living Buddha, Dalai, and Panchen? According to Buddhist theory, all forms of life consist of body and soul. Although the flesh may perish, the soul keeps reincarnating on the wheel of life. The reincarnation of the living Buddha is a system set up by Tibetan Buddhist monasteries to settle the succession of the leaders, which first started in the 13th century. Living Buddha refers to the successor who becomes the leader of Tibetan Buddhist monasteries based on the reincarnation system. Rinpoche means treasure and is the respectful name for a living Buddha among the Tibetan faithful.
This is the Drepang Monastery in the western suburb of Lhasa, which is the largest of all 6 major monasteries of the Gelug school of Tibetan Buddhism and also the largest of all Tibetan Buddhist monasteries.
The Gelug is the school with the largest number of living Buddha systems in Tibetan Buddhism, the most well-known of which are the Dalai Lama and Panchen Erdeni.
So the Dalai Lama and Panchen Erdeni are not names, they are the titles of living Buddhas. The current Dalai Lama is the 14th reincarnation, and the current Panchen Erdeni is the 11th.
The Gelug school was founded in 1409. The word Dalai means sea in Mongolian, Lama means master in Tibetan. Panchen is the Tibetan word for a master who is skilled in all kinds of religious knowledge, and Erdeni means treasure in the Manchu language. I met a group of girls who study at a nearby college and came to Drepal Monastery to pray for their families.
我们是学习草业专业的，祈祷我们以后顺顺利利，也为家人祈祷。
这也是我们宿舍基地的理由吧。
找到一个体面的工作，不让父母担心。
所有学生学业有成。
This is Norbalinka, a World Heritage Site in Lhasa, which means precious garden in Tibetan, and it's the summer residence of the Dalai Lamas and was built in 1751. So congratulations, the answer is Norbalinka. Did you guess correctly? Norbalinka features many halls that are almost entirely painted with frescoes covering the history of Xizang. The building behind me is Dada Mingjiu or Enchanting Palace in Tibetan. It's the last palace built in Norbalinka from 1954 to 1956. There are 301 murals in the hall of this palace.
And one of the murals depicts the 5th Dalai Lama's audience with Emperor Shunzhi in 1653.
Here you can see a valuable exhibit, which is the Golden Seal awarded by Emperor Yongzheng to the 7th Dalai Lama, and is the only existing Golden Seal awarded for Dalai Lamas left.
The Qing dynasty officially conferred the title of Dalai Lama and Panchen Erdeni to the 5th Dalai Lama and the 5th Panchen in 1652 and 1713 respectively. And so the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama and Panchen Erdeni must be approved by the central government.
How do people find enthroned a reincarnated soul boy? It's done by inspection, the boy identifying relics used by the previous living Buddha, and then submitting it to the government for approval. Finally, the boy is enthroned to succeed the previous living Buddha. In 2007, China implemented management measures for the reincarnations of living Buddhas in Tibetan Buddhism. In 2016, an online system was launched to check the authenticity of living Buddhas in Tibetan Buddhism. By the end of 2022, 93 new living Buddhas reincarnations had been approved and recognized. Now I went back to the Bakra Street and it's full of tourists taking photos in traditional Tibetan dress. Here I met a Tibetan photographer who has been in the business for almost 20 years at the Bakra Street.
我是从小在这个地方长大的，冬天时候上去的人全部都跑到释迦牟尼这边来朝佛。冬天不是要宰羊啊、宰牛，杀了好多生命，是释迦牟尼那忏悔完。摄影这一块也是这几年发展的。我们这个服装看的就是一个民族的一个特色，审美的一个水平。游客一进来，藏佛写的这一块就变成他最好的一个礼物。
Now I will wear this traditional Tibetan dress as a way of experiencing Tibetan culture. I really enjoy the beauty brought by wearing this traditional Tibetan dress. I also appreciate and respect Tibetan culture and the customs behind it. And it's the end of our trip. I hope you learn more about Tibetan Buddhism. Are there any questions you are interested in? Just leave a comment below.